Hey guys, happy morning, happy days here from Tahiti. It's me, Tuomo Vauhkonen from Tuomo Vauhkonen Coaching. Today, coming to you live, as I mentioned, with Will House, who is coming to us from San Francisco, California. We're really excited to dive deeper into Will's story today. We are going to be talking about recovery, a little bit about addiction, and how we can use some of the better lifestyle based tools, how to overcome these addictive behaviors that we all might have. So, Will House, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi, Tomo. Thank you for having me. Very grateful for you taking the time to invite me in here. Good to see you. How you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing fantastic. I had a pretty early morning start, so I'm very well caffeinated for this chat, and what a fantastic way. I always love these discussions. They kind of slow me down a little bit. So once I'm out and about, I've kind of try to go quite bit overheated sometimes. But these sessions, I love these, and they're good reflection points for me as well. So with that being said, let's give people who are watching. And by the way, if you're watching us live today, or if you're watching us on replay, leave us a little bit of love and comments. Where are you watching from? Where are you tuning in from? And as I mentioned today, our conversation with will be a lot about the recovery and probably a little bit about the addiction behaviors. And then definitely stay till the end because we got something really cool coming up. There's a new app, and not so new anymore, that Will is producing and founded, and we're going to dive deeper into that and the functionalities and capabilities of that and how we can help obviously people with addiction behaviors and so on and so forth, but also people that want to just develop healthier lifestyle habits. This will be very, very functional and helpful. So that being said, Will, before we dive into that, help us understand a little bit of your story. Where did you sort of come from, and how did you end up where you are right now?
Yeah, sure. So my background is mostly in tech. I grew up in the UK. I had a pretty good upbringing, pretty good education, two older brothers. I had a pretty good run in the software industry, um, and was quite fortunate to work for some of the larger tech firms. And then with those firms, was able to travel a lot and do a lot of entertainment along with actual customer-based activities. And I ended up being relocated to New York in around 2010, which was a terrific opportunity. I'm a guy from that grew up in the north of England in a little town, and most people don't leave that town, and it's
Mhm.
very cold. And for me to be in New York City was kind of just this incredible experience and dream for me. And so that was probably a 4-year journey there, and then I got an opportunity to move to San Francisco with a smaller software company. And I had a pretty good run. I would say, a big part of that role and that lifestyle was, living in cities, entertaining clients, and traveling a lot. Meant that there was an aspect of drinking and all that kind of stuff that went along with it. And I think it got to a point where around 2016, I probably had gone from being like one of the more desirable individuals in the industry in what I was doing, to being, you know, basically unemployable, with a DUI on my record and that type of thing, and it just really spiraled from there for me. And I realized that at a certain point, I had to make a difference. I had to make a change. And so in 2016, I decided, right, I've got to stop this, and I've got to
Mhm.
work on improving my life, and I've got to cut this thing out. And it's not easy.
Mhm.
It takes a lot of self-reflection, takes a lot of understanding of what's going on a deeper psychological level, because a lot of the time, people will look at whatever addictive behavior might be going on, and they might say, well, let's put a label on this, when actually there's very little focus on what is really going on, what is driving this behavior, and where's it coming from. And so for me, I went through a number of different programs, and frankly had a bit of a hard time finding something that worked for me. And obviously I was trying to balance my work life and this new recovery lifestyle that I was finding extremely difficult. I went to rehab. I was pretty shocked by that. I saw people coming and going that needed a lot of help, and unfortunately I didn't have the right insurance coverage to help them, and they left very quickly because they didn't know how to score themselves correctly. And I tried medication, I tried AA, I tried outpatient programs, I tried all kinds of things. And I would say that what I found was, I'm an incentive-driven individual. My background was kind of new business, building sales teams, and negotiating contracts. And so for me, I felt like there was some other way of helping people with this problem. And for me, where it began was identifying each day what healthy habits I was doing, and tracking those things and keeping consistent with them. And we'll get more into that and what difference that made and why it made those differences. But that for me has been the thing that's helped me turn back around and get my life on the right track. It's funny when I look back, Tom, at where I've come from and where I got to, and now where I am again. And I suppose that the title of the session here is sort of the rock bottom and then the comeback. I'm probably not doing the rock bottom enough justice. I mean, if I look at where I was at the end of 2020, I'd gone from, working for these companies, starting my own consulting company, to basically being completely, without any money, mentally wrecked, to the point where, basically I was hospitalized from extreme stress and sleep deprivation. I spent 2 weeks in this facility, and it was horrendous. And I just remember I couldn't think correctly. I couldn't even remember, very basic things. That it was just it was a horrifying experience. I was literally hallucinating, hearing voices. It was shockingly bad now when I think back. But actually, I look at that now as a bit of a blessing. It was, if you want to call it a calling, or you want to call it an enlightenment moment, or you want to call it an epiphany. People call it all kinds of things. I don't know what it was, but all I know is it changed the direction of my life. I didn't know it at the time, but it completely changed everything. And since then, I have not considered drinking, and I've dedicated my life to living a healthier lifestyle, and to sharing what I found worked for me with others in the world. So
yeah, that's a story and a half right there, and thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to backtrack just a tiny bit, just to get, if you're comfortable sharing just a slight more details. Like, was it alcohol, drugs? Was it combination? Were there something else? Like, what were the most addictive behaviors that you had?
I mean, you can be addicted to anything, can't you?
Exactly.
Good and bad. So mostly for me, alcohol, which led to cocaine.
Right.
And Coke was one of those things that basically was like, just meant you could stay out longer, and chase that feeling longer. And for me, it wasn't, I've never really enjoyed alcohol, the flavor of it. I never enjoyed it really. It was just about the feeling. It was about the experience, the being out with friends, the laughing, the things that might happen. And most of the time, early on, right through my sort of 20s, they were generally amazing experiences, or at least I thought they were. And it's only when I sort of approached my 30s and I moved west that things changed for some reason. I'm not sure. I still haven't identified what that change was. I basically I lost a couple of relationships, a couple of jobs didn't work out, and I think what I found in talking to a number of people is that whether it's an actual loss or a perceived loss, for me, I think I had a bit of both, and I think I just didn't handle it very well.
Right.
But it was a number of big things that built up over time, and it meant that I was kind of that drinking and other substances. It just it amplified over time, but it also amplified in a worse way where it wasn't social. When I lived in New York and London, I didn't drink at home on my own ever. When I moved to San Francisco, I did, because there isn't really a lifestyle outside of 10 or 11 p.m. where I lived in the city in Pacific Heights. It was very much like you go out for dinner, you might go to a bar after, and you're in bed by 10, 11 o'clock. And that didn't work for me. I was trying to chase the New York life, which is stupid, but that, it takes a while to transition off of living in New York. It's a hell of a place, but it definitely takes a certain way of living. So those were the main things for me.
Right. Now then, you mentioned there that you had the sort of epiphany or the aha or the awakening, whatever the word people want to put into that. What was that like? Was that obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but I I'm trying to put words into your mouth, and maybe that's not right, but was that like when you were at the rock bottom, or what was that sort of dip, if you will? Like you were like, let's say that you were coming down, it's like, all right, now I'm on the bottom, as you described a little bit of that touchdown, if you will. Was that where you found those insights and ahas, or was it sort of when you were coming up from there? What was that sort of curvature there on the
I had
bottom
multiple bottoms, Tomo, multiple. I mentioned earlier, I had this 6-month period of being sober the first time around through AA, and I went to I basically relapsed and just decided to have a glass of wine. I thought, okay, I can have a glass of wine, and it turned into a bottle or two, and it was horrendous. And
wow.
next thing you know, you got a DUI. I'd never had any interactions with law enforcement in my life, and it was pretty scary. And being thrown in a drunk tank and all of that, right? It's just not a good experience, obviously. And then even worse than that, though, is the cost that has, right? I basically got terminated because of it.
Wow.
Because my role required about 50% travel, whether around the state, the area, to service your clients. And so most companies, particularly in California, don't like if you have got a DUI. You're basically a liability, and they don't want a person on their books that might have an accident under the influence of alcohol, right? And so I then tried to get a number of jobs at companies that normally I would have walked into, and I couldn't because it was on my record.
Right.
So that amplified my frustration, and I think it just literally put me further into this spiral, and it makes things incredibly difficult. That was one of the bottoms. There were a few others after that, and some people might say, well, you should have learned your lesson, but it's not as simple as that.
Exactly.
Getting sober is really, really hard. It's something I'm a pretty strong-willed guy. When I set my mind to something, I'll give it everything, and most of the time I can make something happen. Um, but this was the hardest thing I could do, really,
Right.
and I think for many others it's extremely hard too, because it requires immense. You're talking about unraveling mental learnings from when you were a kid, when you were a child.
Yeah.
I grew up around alcohol. And at the time, I didn't realize it was very accepted socially. My parents would have parties all the time, and I was a little kid, and it was just around me constantly. Two older
Mhm.
brothers, I would hang out with them. At the time, it seemed innocent, but now you look back and you think that was a learned behavior, and then it sort of progresses into this city and corporate lifestyle, and there's all kinds of things attached to that, and then money comes along, and that adds up. It's a problem of its own. You can't
Of course.
afford to, you know, cocaine if you don't have money, can you?
Yeah.
Um, and so there's all these things that happen in your life along the way that generate these certain behaviors, and these certain
Mhm.
bad habits start to develop. And you can either go on one path or another path. And unfortunately, you think you're on this path and you end up on another one. Yeah, I think the final thing for me, this is a long answer. I apologize. It's way
No,
too
that's
long,
fine.
but I'm trying to give you full context. I think you've heard this many times, Tomo, so I definitely apologize to you.
No, no, no. Keep
um,
going.
the the moment that I described in 2020 was just this complete mental sort of meltdown kind of thing, where I suppose it was maybe like the deepest level of transcendental meditation you can possibly imagine, where
Mhm.
they say that in meditation it's sort of the thing you're releasing these stressors that are sort of leaving you, and you got to let them leave. And I think it was all of that all in one go.
Wow.
Just this, and I could feel it, and I was sort of getting these messages coming in as well, and it's just quite extremely powerful. And all I knew was, when I get out of this, I have to shift my life and shift my focus, and dedicate myself to being to giving something back, and to building something that I've dreamed of for a long time, which is to have my own
Mhm.
software company. So
Wow, that's beautiful at the same time. That's very powerful, but it's very liberating, more than likely. Like when you're able to kind of, I would say, go in those deeper layers of your psyche and your psychology and self, if you will. There's a lot of tremendous potential there lying dormant, and when you're able to release those, potential, if you will, it's very liberating, isn't it? And
absolutely.
was it like, what was that like from that experience then, when you came out? Like, did you have like the lights were on all of a sudden? Was it kind of like the from black to white kind of thing, or what was that transition like?
It wasn't black and white, but as time's gone on, it's made more sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was just a message that to follow to follow what I want, and what I can offer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's quite hard to explain, but it was almost like all of these experiences, all of these places I've traveled and lived and worked, and all of these people that I've met, good and bad, along the way, and all these sort of wrapped in this experience. And I think it was just a message of like, to to take that and to follow through with building out whatever it is that I want to build out. I mean, this um, solution, that this company that I've created, is not something that all of a sudden came out of nowhere in
Mm-hmm.
2020. I've been thinking about this for about 5 years, like most people do.
Mm-hmm.
Like what you do, Tomo. You're always thinking about things and where the future is. And I just feel as though I had not ever leaped into it, or
Mm-hmm.
leapt into it, should I say. That I just sort of, like many people, went along with the we all have pressures, we have financial pressures, we all have to have a job, all this stuff, and I followed that path, and I think I never felt like I could really go and do what I wanted to really do. And I just think it was this like massive sign. It was also a bit of a warning too, of like, if you don't correct this now, it's you're either, something bad's going to happen. And I just knew it and I even know now today, it's so severe that I know that if I were to drop my guard and I were to think, oh, one drink won't hurt, I just can't think like that.
Right.
Because someone said something to me that has stuck with me, and I think it was brilliant. Actually, two things that I picked up along the way from counselors and things. One of them was protect your assets, so that's a good one. And then the other one is think of the cost when you're about to when you're going down that thinking of, just a drink, it won't hurt. Think of the cost, not the cost of that drink, but the cost of what happens if you go into a spiral and a cycle that leads you down a 3-month drinking spree, whatever it might be. What is the cost? The cost, Tomo, is a DUI, which then leads to loss of job, which then leads to financial pressure, which then leads to your partner leaving you and losing visitation rights of your kids and losing your income and on and on and on, and then jail, and then it's endless. This path downwards is so severely steep. It's like in stock trading, you take the elevator down and the stairs up. Same thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
that's a good metaphor right there. You're taking the elevator down, and but it only goes one way. The stairs are only way up. Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's a good one. Right. So what was that then? Let's start. Turning up to the upswing of things. Obviously, that's 2020. Like you sharing. That's not such a long time ago. Like that's pretty still recent.
yeah.
And that's vulnerable to share that. So thank you for that, first of all. And it's definitely something that's possibly in your mind, in your back of your mind every now and then, if not daily, probably weekly, and you have to sort of keep discipline. Because another word that for this title of the discussion today is discipline. So I think, correct me again if I'm wrong, like you're pretty disciplined about your daily behaviors and routines and habits and so on and so forth. So when you started developing them, where was it sort of like those healthy lifestyle habits? Was it sort of one by one, or were you kind of stacking them on top of each other? So what were the very first ones possibly that started making the difference for you?
Yeah. So Joe Booth, who you spoke to, I think, a week or two ago from Class 5 Mind. So Joe reached out to me and mentioned his program, and he has this sort of this habit tracker, and it's fairly simple, right? And it's what I think it's 6 habits that are exercise, diet, sleep, household priorities, and sober, yes or no, and that's it. So I printed this tracker out on paper and filled it out every single day, and then I averaged out my scores on a weekly basis. And each week on a Sunday, I would basically say, okay, how did I do on each of these areas? And what I found is, and I was talking to RJ, your good friend RJ, about this, and he called it auditing yourself. And I love that saying, and I'm going to take that one. Because you really do. And it's, to me and to a lot of people, Tomo, it sounds, as you know, right, because you are all about this, it sounds boring and monotonous, right? And to a degree it is, but that's where habits come in.
Yeah.
Because brushing your teeth is boring, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
If you want to have friends or a partner, right?
Yeah.
So, and you don't want to have no teeth. And so, it's about building that consistency. And I think what I found was taking that audit each Sunday and looking back at where can I improve. And you can get so granular as you get into it. I was getting down to the point where I was eliminating certain food types and seeing how it goes, and then increasing my water intake and seeing how it goes, and just getting so in tune. This is one of the absolute blessings of how things are for me now. I'm not living under this cloud of this like I'm completely in tune with my feelings and my body and my just everything, because it's not masked with substances. I don't take, I used to take ibuprofen for hangovers. Well, I don't take ibuprofen anymore. I can't remember the last time I had one. And by the way, that was every day because I was always hungover. And so this tuning, you could call it, by auditing and by tracking, it just means that you can be so productive in your life. And you talk about performance all the time, and how do you reach peak performance, and how do you get there? And obviously there are so many facets to that. But for me, the big thing, the number one thing that you and I've talked about, that methodology of focusing on the number one thing. The number one thing is to track these simple habits each day and be consistent. And as long as you take action, it doesn't mean you have to run a marathon tomorrow. If you can, then go for it. And if it's what you want to do, then go for it. But just knowing that if I exercise today and I go for a walk with the dog, that's great. Because I know that exercise releases, endorphins, dopamine. It's good to get out in nature. It's good for the dog. That makes me feel good. And it moves you forwards. It's a very small thing you can do very early in the morning, and it changes everything. Your thinking, gets your body moving, all these things. Everyone knows the benefits there. So that's really been the big thing that's helped me, and that's where I really began. It's funny because I kept all of those pages that I did until Oberit went live. I kept all the printouts to show to Joe.
Nice.
Look, I did it. I was consistent with it, and this is where I am now. And I think we'll get onto it, I suppose, in a bit. I'm talk a lot about rewards, but that is in itself the most rewarding thing is progress in life.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you just touched. It's funny because just yesterday I posted about growth. That for me, the ultimate success in life is growth. And that's, there's many ways of people look at success and their journeys in life and so on and so forth. But for me, the some of the biggest ones are growth and contributions, being able to help others and do things for others, because then you receive so much in return. And the other ones are just very much sort of individualistic and maybe sort of, on a personal level is growth. Like I'm big on growth. And like I think everybody who's in this field that may be listening, they can relate to. But something that you mentioned there, and this is definitely not my words, but I'm following this, guy called Naval Ravikant, and he says that life is mostly about applying the basics.
Yeah,
it's so true. Like we like if we think of and we look at our each and every day, and we know how much of our behavior is habitual and routine based and so on and so forth. It's mostly about that. And I think it doesn't even matter if it's personal business or sports or whatever endeavor you're on about. When you apply the basics, the fundamentals really, really well, I would say you're easily 80 to 90% there. You're
sure.
easily 90% there. And then the sort of, the cherry on the top and the, the cream and everybody talks about is those hacks and sort of nice little things, but they don't really matter that much in the larger scheme of things. Like those foundations are being built from those actions that we take each and every day. And if it comes to, getting sober, building your business, having a beautiful, flourishing relationship, getting back in health, what have you. It's those foundational pieces that we have to repeat each and every day that makes the biggest difference. So fantastic. Um, so let's get into that then. Like, what is your, you mentioned a little bit about the discipline there, and that upswing, and then before we get into the app, like, what does your life look like right now when it comes to sort of those daily activities, behaviors, how disciplined you are when it comes to, those behaviors. And then I think, to say that, there's a one other saying that came to my mind, and I think this is, I personally haven't been at the AA, but I definitely been exposed to alcohol a little bit. But I think there's a saying, and maybe you've heard this as well in that addiction community, that doesn't really matter how far you travel, you're always the same distance from the ditch. And and I think that's what you just mentioned there, that even like taking a sip or taking a drink,
So true.
you start there's a chance for that spiraling effect. So saying all that, like, what does your um daily life look like right now, maybe the mornings or the evenings, or during the day, and what are the sort of fundamental factors that help you to stay on track?
Yeah. So the first thing that I do in the morning is a practice that we call daily intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And so this has been transformative, Tomo, for me personally. And it's something that we've built into our solution for wellness. And so it's really simple. It's gratitude, affirmations, and priorities, and not big to-do lists, but simple stuff. Exercise, eat well, get enough sleep, get less screen time at night. Just really simple things, but reminders that we all need as we focus on the bigger stuff. And for me, my day is as it is probably for you. There are so many other things that it's easy to forget the small things. And again, it is the basics, the fundamentals, and bringing mindfulness to what is it that you're grateful for. Don't forget where you came from and where you were. And that's a big one for me. And be thankful for that. Wherever you are in your life, whatever you're doing. So the gratitude thing has been huge. The affirmation work is extremely powerful. And, I think, again, it's just fascinating when you start to do this practice and these things actually happen. And of course, I'm seeing it now manifesting in the company. And the things that I set out on a year or so ago, they're now happening. And I think a big part of that is this process of the daily intention. And it's sort of your in AA, they would say, it's a bit more religious approach. They say they talk about praying and meditating. So we're really just kind of almost taking a similar thing where we're saying gratitude, which is giving out what you're thankful for, and affirmations, which is affirming your actions and what you're going to do, the intent of your actions, and then prioritizing those actions. So that's the first thing that I do. It took me longer to explain it than it is to do it, right?
Right. So the next one is like, is that like 5 minutes, 10 minutes straight off the bed kind of thing after your hygiene and so?
It's as long as you need it to be. In the early stages, I think for me, I was writing down each gratitude, 5 ones, and I was trying to make them different each day. It was a longer practice. I would say it ended up taking me at least 20 minutes. Nowadays, it's a 2-minute thing.
Right.
But I really bring my attention to it, and I'm able to do it. It's like anything. It's like meditating. In the beginning, it's hard, and over time, you get good at it, and you can drop in and drop out. Same with this exercise. It's in and out as you get better at it, and as you understand it. So that's the way I like to start the day, Tomo. And I think it's I truly believe, and I'm, in fact, the what I what I do each day is a result of that daily practice.
Mm.
Um, and then on
Wow.
top of that, I build on, as I said before, the exercise, the diet, um, the household priorities, and then obviously keeping sober and then consistent with sleep. The sleep piece is extremely challenging. And what was interesting
Mm.
um, in the beginning of this whole thing was that I didn't really realize you have an idea, right? You set your bedtime thing for like 10 p.m. and you set your wake up for 6 a.m. and you think you're doing it. But what's interesting is when you start using the bedtime feature on your phone, you realize that that's not the case. And
Mm.
actually, you put your phone down because it's only knowing when the screen's gone black and when it's turned back on. And so the reality is very different to what you think you might be getting. And that was really interesting. And oftentimes, again, it's about this being in tune with yourself so you can perform optimally.
Yeah.
And sleep is the biggest one, and it's something that I still to this day, like you and I discussed earlier, you had an early start, so did I today.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that has, I think, a huge impact on performance, and we've got to be mindful of. So I keep an eye on that one as well.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think for me, especially, I changed my sleep tracking device maybe like 6 months ago, and so on and so forth. And it's more bit more detailed.
Yeah.
Right now, I take it from my wrist with my watch, but uh, it has made a huge difference. And I love numbers, and I love to see how much and the quality and so on and so forth. HRVs, the heart rate variability, and that, like, it's definitely, you become just more mindful, you become more in tune, and you more aware of it as well. And for me, it's about 9:30 bed, about 5 a.m. up, without the alarm.
Yeah.
Actually, this morning, it was probably the first time that I set an alarm for a long time, and I woke up maybe 10 minutes before the alarm naturally. It's interesting,
I
but
love
yes,
that. That
yes.
means you've got a very good rhythm going.
Yeah, and once you find that rhythm, like once you find those patterns that work for you, it's just, try to stick to them also over the weekends. I think that's one of the best things that happened to me for sure. But sleep is massive for sure. With that being said, let's switch gears a little bit more into sort of that solution based, reward based, especially habitual behaviors. So you developed an app. Let's get into that, Oberit, and I'll drop a link to that. You guys, everybody that's listening, either live today with us, or if you're checking it out on podcast on replay, you can check it. Called Oberit, and you mentioned that was sort of 5 years in the works, and now you've birthed that idea into a reality. So walk us through a little bit of that process. How did it came out to be, and what the Oberit can offer for us?
Yeah, well, the first thing, Tomo, is I kicked off the Oberit process with very little money. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and, that's the first thing I want to say to anyone who might be listening to this is that um, it's possible to build something from nothing.
Mm.
Um, and, I basically got started with a incubator company uh, in the US. I knew the founder for a couple of years. I was talking to him about. They're called Launchpeer. That they help accelerate early startup companies and basically bring your idea to prototype and then get it funded. It's a fantastic program. It's a bit like Y Combinator. Um, so I scratched together $5,000 on 3 different cards, split over a period of time to get that process going, and it's probably the best decision of my life. I remember the
Wow.
feeling of when they told me I was accepted on the program. It was right at the end of 2020, so it was an amazing feeling. And so I scratched together the money, got going on that program. They've got a team that helps you design, with storyboarding and user journeys and branding and all this stuff you have to do. And we built out the prototype, and they help you with the pitch deck and everything. So that was huge. A friend of mine, I've known for quite some time. He went to the same school as me. He's about 4 years older than me. I was back in the UK at the time, and I reached out to him, and I, told him that I'd been struggling with this demon for a long time, and I was trying to shake it, and if he had any advice, because he basically had just sold his company.
Mhm.
And 10 years prior, he was bankrupt, basically, right? And he now, is a very well-off investor type. And he said, yeah, let's go to some AA meetings. So we did. And as time went by, I mentioned that I was working on this thing. And he was like, that's interesting. I said, oh, good. I'm pleased you think so. So I told him more, showed him the prototype. And he said, that's really interesting. And I went, okay, cool. Well, it needs money for development. And he said, how much is it going to be? And I said, well, it's going to be quite expensive. Development's not cheap. So anyway, he in April, we reached an agreement, and he became my first angel investor, which was another amazing feeling. And yeah, we got to work, built the app. We went live in November the 1st on Google and Apple. And I'm pleased to tell you, I didn't tell you, but this week we passed 10,000 users, which is an
Oh,
incredible
wow.
milestone. So very, very grateful to see that. And yeah, just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So very pleased with where we are right now. And we signed up with a US-based investment firm on March 1st. The company received a valuation cap increase, which is I can't disclose how much, but I'm thrilled with it, should we say. And yeah, it's extremely exciting. And now, I've built this sort of core team that's growing. I brought on someone to help us with the marketplace experience. We're developing version 2 of the app now.
Nice.
I've got, I was just counting this earlier. There are about 15 people now that work, and I speak to every day, that are working on Oberit. We've got big growth plans, Tomo. And as you know, we've, been very diligent about working with good partners that share our vision and have similarities in their approach, like yourself. And we want to be aligned with people that have the same type of goals and the same type of outlook on how to live a better life, because we really are basically about helping people, reward people for healthy habits, and I think there's such a nice synergy with what you're doing there. And yeah, so that's where we are right now. So it's been a hell of a journey, and we're really just getting going. So it's
Nice.
amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned there, obviously, that it's possibly the idea, probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but that sparked from sort of the recovery based, the rewarding the recovery. But it really, it's a lot more than that Oberit app. Like, I've been using it, and I especially love the marketplace. That's just outrageously amazing offers over there. It's crazy. It really makes you want to use the app and take advantage of your recovery. But it's like I mentioned, it's not just about the recovery. It's about building habits. Like, even if you're not, even if you don't have any addiction per se, you can still use it. It's definitely functional and useful for people in any walk of life. Whoever wants to build healthier lifestyle and habits and routines, and those affirmations are there as well. So help us understand a little bit more of the details of the actual app and how it works, and what's the best use of it. I use in the mornings. Is that the best sort of, you're using it in the mornings as well, or what's the sort of the more details on it?
Yeah, so the way it works is you obviously sign up, answer a few simple questions, and then we're encouraging you to set your daily intentions, as we discussed before. So we took that
Yeah.
whole process and we made it digital. So we want individuals to come in and do that each day, right? That will ideally set up your day, your week, your month, your year on the right trajectory. Step one. We then reward you for doing that with Oberit coins, basically, which is a digital currency that can be used to exchange in the marketplace for discounts or even free products from our wellness partner providers. And what's interesting and what I like about this is that we are very specific about the types of companies and brands that we partner with. So we support brands, obviously, that have a good brand message, story, product, service. We support, we've got a coffee in there called Fire Department Coffee. That's, they donate 10% back to veterans and fire departments. We've got minority owned, women owned businesses. We're sponsoring She Recovers this month. We've got an amazing deal with Olipop, which is a prebiotic, low sugar soda. And their mission is to get people off bad soda and onto, good soda. And so we're supporting those types of brands. I think that's incredibly exciting, right? Because a part of this is you have to be mindful, and we want to allow easy access at good prices to products that are going to help you live a better, healthier life. Yeah. And maybe everyone, I wasn't a big soda drinker, but there are people out there that are hooked on it. And isn't it better if we can get them onto a healthy soda at least? So that's sort of the way it works. We've got a number of other things. We've got some videos in there that is informational, so you can learn and earn with the video about various topics. We've got a share and earn program, which helps to kind of drive organic growth of our user base. And we've got the self-investing page where you can sort of track your progress, basically, like we discussed earlier, and see how you're doing on each of these areas. And later versions, we're working on the version 2 marketplace. I'm really excited about that. It's looking great. And we're going to have some really cool stuff. We're going to have these contextual, personalized offers based on the type of people that are coming to use the app. To your point earlier, we want our sort of purpose, and what I set out to do with this was that I want this. It's a free app. We do have a premium model that gives you double rewards coins, but it's free. We wanted it to be available and accessible to everyone and anyone, no matter where they are, no matter what device they're on. We want it to be device agnostic. So whether you're wearing a Fitbit or an Oura Ring, it'll work with that device. And we wanted to incentivize people, whether they're doing well or not so well. And so what's exciting about the platform is that since we're baselining these actions each day, we can actually start to understand patterns of behavior. And we can help nudge individuals in areas that they maybe are struggling. Let's say, for example, someone's sleep is dropping off or their diet's dropping off for a few days. We can nudge them on the right path and offer them products and services that might help bring them back up in those areas. So it's really exciting, Tomo, and I'm just delighted with the progress. It's a ton of work. Goes without saying. I could not do this if I wasn't sober. Not a chance.
Yeah.
And so every day is sort of it's one of those things where it drives me obviously to every day I work on this is a day that I'm further away from that life, and that to me is amazing. It's like it's in the rearview mirror, and that is a really incredible feeling. So, and one other thing I would say, and it's important to say this, is that it's not a one person thing. It takes, as a lot of people and important people to their support and in making this type of thing possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the support of these investors and of my family at times when I needed it, that's huge.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah, it's super interesting. First of all, what you mentioned there, like if it comes to building a business or embarking on a journey of recovery, we need others. We need that piece of support. I think that's fundamental, and I think you can you're very much of a testament to that. Like you mentioned that, just not to backtrack too far, but like the journey of recovery is tough. It's hard. I don't have a personal experience of that, but having these discussions with people like yourself and Joe Booth and others, like we start understanding that we just don't know what other people are going through, and getting showing support, it's absolutely fundamental in that journey of recovery. So when it comes to also obviously building habits, there's an app right now that you've developed that supports you. Now that being said, it's also, I think, crucially important to be engaged with other people as well. But fantastic. And then something that I wanted to also add from the perspective of the app that I've been using, it's interesting that because I'm thinking like, can it be that it's genuinely a win-win for everyone involved, not just the vendors, not just the users, like each and every person that's involved in the app. It's crazy. It's like, how is it possible? Like there's no real selling, like no, you're not trying to sell anything yet. It's like the offers that are there is just outrageously crazy. It's like, well, it's like free coffee, free this, free that, like just crazy discounts, and it's a true win-win situation for
it's it.
everyone. So I love that.
Yes, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it really is. And if you look at what we're doing for She Recovers, for example,
Mm-hmm.
there's an event in Miami, 22nd of this month, and it's women in recovery. Believe it or not, Tomo, this community is absolutely massive. I mean, they've got 350,000 members,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the event's an exclusive thing. It's 650 women. And what we were able to do was team up with one of our marketplace providers, Olipop, that I mentioned before. And they have very kindly offered to put on the drinks for the breakout area of the
Mm-hmm.
conference. And we are obviously the sponsor with them. So we've got the Olipop, the QR code. And basically, the idea is Olipop gets their product out there. They've reached a new audience that may or may not even know they exist, even though they're in most stores in the US now. They can buy that product through Oberit at a 30% discount, which is more than you can get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Not even Whole Foods get 30%, by the way. I had to say that.
Yeah, of
And,
course, of course. That's good.
and so but then we're driving them back to Olipop through the Oberit app. And by the way, they're unlocking that discount by being healthy. And then after they've downloaded the app, we're donating $1 back to She Recovers Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So to your point, I wasn't planning on telling you all these details, but this win-win-win-win-win, it truly is.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, we are bringing new individuals that need our product and can benefit from our product. We're introducing them to a healthy soda alternative product that can
Mm-hmm.
help them, and we're donating to a foundation that also helps them. So it's a fantastic feeling, and I think the model is a little bit unique, and I think we're onto something that actually can really help a lot of not just people to do better, but we can help brands and we can help
Yeah.
all kinds of things. So we're doing a lot more work around supporting nonprofits as well.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I love that, Will, and thank you for sharing that again. And just people again, if you're watching this again like live, I just dropped the link there, so you can check out Oberit completely, as Will mentioned, completely free of charge. Use it, see what you think about it. Send Will a message or myself a message if you like it. I'm sure you're happy to hear any kind of feedback. What are the sort of things that needs to be improved and so on and so forth. But like, even if nothing else, just go and check out the marketplace. It's insane, it's crazy. And then start using it, earning some Oberit coins, and start building those healthy lifestyle habits. It's fundamental. Such a good thing. Thank you already for doing what you're doing. And as you mentioned, there's a more than likely, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a larger course, there's a larger mission. It's more than likely, again, I'm trying to put words in, but this is how I see it, that like you're doing something that's larger than yourself. There's a bigger cause, there's a bigger mission, that you're involving other people, and there's a sense of fulfillment that comes from it. And that's the end game for me. I'm all about fulfillment, and whatever drives that's what I'm all about. So I absolutely love that. And any other thoughts, ideas from, we're starting to wrap up this discussion. So I definitely encourage people to check you out on, you're mostly active in which platform on social media? LinkedIn, where else you're active?
LinkedIn, Instagram is Oberit app. There's a Twitter account as well, Oberit app. Facebook, LinkedIn, I said, and then the App Store and the website. So
nice one. I'll link all those links in the show notes. Those people that are checking us out on the podcast format, please check it out. Oberit app, and there's a link also. You can download it, as we mentioned, for free of charge, and start building healthy habits. Will House, thank you so much for tuning in and sitting down with me. I know your time is precious. Anything else that you wanna leave us with when it comes to recovery or building a healthier lifestyle from your perspective?
I think just consistency, consistent actions brings big results, and you know, I've seen it, I've lived it, and that's what I would say. Just when you feel like you can't do it, just keep doing it. It's an age-old saying, but you know, don't quit.
Yeah, let's keep going. Fantastic. Thank you so much for today, and I look forward to following your journey and Oberit's journey in the very near future. Lots of exciting things and updates coming up. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tomo.
Absolutely.